What's up YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a deck profile for D-BT10 Zorga, using the blue Zorga as the base. Well, I don't think I have to explain the right line because most people know it, since it's been tagged in so many different decks, but generally it just draws you 3 cards and discards something you don't need or can get back with this. So probably the best right line you can get right now in Stoichea if you have to run orders, which this deck does. The new boss monster, Zorga Masques, who surprisingly is just a straight up upgrade from the red Zorga we got in, I think, Festival Collection a couple months back, or that might be a year back right now. This card alone literally fixes going first and going second. With the deck, it just gives you so much pressure that you're able to kill your opponent when they don't even see it coming. So this card is insane, and I don't even see it being power crept anytime soon. As for probably a staple everybody knows about, Roaming Prison Dragon, this card is nuts. When they printed it, I don't think they realized how strong it would be later on in the game, as having to remove it yourself was a cost. But like these days, just the amount of pressure it gives you in the early game, on your turn 3, on your Persona right turn, this is the core of the deck. It sucks that it's a bit expensive, but I hope anyone who wants to play Zorga can get their hands on these, or they might reprint them soon. I hope so, at least. A staple since set 5, I think this was, or set 3. This is a set 3 card, which realistically does also everything you need, since finding orders is the baseline of the deck. This one also can just send your mask to the graveyard, which is the main way we get the mask in this deck. So another amazing card, and also it kind of helps on your break turns, on your big break games, because it can return cards to the hand with its second skill. So when you alchemy magic, you can return a card on your field to the hand for a soul blast, which is amazing since you can return heal triggers, critical triggers, PGs, front triggers if you run those, the over trigger if it was used earlier and it's in your drop now. So this card can't even see me cutting it anytime soon either, so another staple for Zorga right now. One of the newest cards, which is a pretty crazy one, is the forced attack guy. I've had games where I was like, this card is useless, I don't have CB for it, I don't want to run it. And then there's other games where this is exactly the one attack I needed to finish the game. So he's at 2, so you see at least 1 during your game at least. But if you don't see him, it's not that bad. He's also a 5k, but because of all the power stacking this deck does, that doesn't really matter. Generally he's like 30k, because he's always on what's it called, Dragon Tree marker, so he's actually 10k base, just like a normal grade 2. And then the power gain from Zorga, from the Persona right, puts him at 30. Often there's a booster behind him, so he's at 38. So this card actually hits for decent numbers. And because you have so much crit pressure and triple drive often, this guy gets the crit as well, just because of your drive checks. So he's actually better than he looks. As last for the monsters, we run 3 copies of the Dragon Tree Reg. We have to run this, but we kind of want to run this because this returns orders back to the hand, so it makes all of our costs easier. But also he's the Dragon Tree marker maker, so he synergizes perfectly with Keel. He's better than he looks. It's just an 8k, doesn't do much in the early game, but like every game I at least use one of his effects. So he's better than you expect. Obviously, we always run 4 PGs. One of these should be the Order PG, but currently it's in another deck of mine, so I just put in 4 of these and used it at locals recently, so it works. Like, kind of in this deck, you don't mind having the normal PGs, because your hand size is generally just filled with orders anyway, so like, if you can revive this and bounce it to hand, it's fine. Like, it doesn't bother you, and Order PG, when you use it, it gets removed from the game, so there's no way to revive it again and bounce it to hand. So that's why I kind of like these more, but generally you're gonna wanna run the Order PG because it's just another order. If you check it for the right line, you can throw it away for the draws, or it's just good against the stride deck. So like, right now it's at 4 of this, but like, imagine that this is the Order PG. As for the orders, I run a very mixed lineup, simply because Shadow Cloaked has to send different orders from the ones that are already in your drop. So we'll start off with 2 of the Mask. This is your prime targets to be sending from Shadow Cloak. If I have him turn 2, I'll just place him down and send this, if I don't have this already. because we just need one to start going, and we kind of want this on our first grade 3 turn, same with the mask, so having seen this during the game is important. This guy is interesting, it's Tearful Malice. He has a little bit of a combo with the beast, since the beast returns a card from the graveyard to hand for counterblast Soul Blast, and this card says counter charge and put it into soul. So if you return this and you use this to Alchemagic, you kind of mitigate the cost of using that card, and since it retires 2 cards for its cost, you can retire both RPDs, meaning the cost is free and it's just like a free draw, kind of, which helps you keep using orders every turn, since the other orders all have costs. This one is free and the mask is free, so like in the worst case scenario, you can just combine these two, have your CB for the game, for your play with Keel, and like keep going. So it's a one-off, because you don't always need it, but when you have it, you kind of like to keep it in play some way. Like I barely ever banish this with Alchemagic, because then I can't use it anymore. But if I really have to, that's the thing too, I guess. For the rest of the orders, I guess I'll go with this one first because it's different. This is Gum. Everybody knows Gum. Gum gives you an extra drive, which means your Vanguard becomes a triple drive. And its cost is discarding an order from hand. So since sometimes you break on orders, so this kind of fixes it and allows you to throw the orders away you don't need, and like replaces them with useful cards. But like just having triple drive means your Vanguard is more likely to see crits, which means all your swings get crit pressure, which is kind of what you need to win the game. You have 2 revival orders, one that works on grade 3 and one that works on grade 1. This one costs a counter blast, but gives our front row plus 5k if we use it to Alchemagic. So that's the extra 5k helps, because generally our roaming prison dragon becomes a 40k when it's under dragon tree marker, and this pushes it to 45. So that's a pretty nice number, since you like 40 is already like over a trigger, but like 45 pushes it to the point where your opponent has to have a trigger and a 10k shield, which the 10k shield is impossible to have, so they'll probably have to throw 2 triggers, which sucks for them. Well, no, I'm wrong. It pushes it beyond 2 triggers, and that's where it's good. And then we have this revival order, which is your preferred turn 1 play, and I'm saying turn 1 as being the first turn you can attack. So if you're going first, I guess the first turn you have soul. So on your grade 2 turn, this is your preferred order to have in hand. Like you want to have discarded the roaming prison dragon, and then use this to soul blast out the grade 1, call it behind Vanguard, I guess, and then revive the roaming prison dragon, and you have perfect grade 2 pressure then. And this thing mills, so generally I just try to mill orders or roaming prison dragons, just to see all of them in the graveyard and be ready for our turn 3. So that's it for orders. There's 9 of them total, 10 if you count the order PG, but I'm currently not running that, so it's not on this list. Alright, as for triggers, I run a pretty standard lineup, I guess, of 7 crits, 4 heals, 1 over trigger, which actually is just an extra crit if you think about it. 3 draws, I guess this is special, 1 front. The reason I run 1 front is because I believe front triggers are like the best trigger currently in the game, since they allow you to survive better when your opponent goes first and they put a lot of pressure on you. Like the 20k shield just matters so much for me, so that's why I want to run it, but realistically this should be another crit. Like if you just look at how games are generally won, it's because you check a critical trigger, so the 9 crit you can run in this deck is probably the way to go. One of the nice things though is the front trigger, if you see it early, you guard with it, you can revive it again with your Zorga skill, you can bounce it with a dog, with Shadow Cloak, which means you always have 20k shield to revive, which is better than all of the other triggers, well, outside of the over trigger. Like if you see the over trigger and you've guarded with it and you bounce it, like that's the best thing you can do. But like generally, if you see this offensively side of the game, so this becomes your best trigger if you don't want to add a PG. So that's why I run 1 front, but like you should probably just run a crit. Like that's probably just better, but I kind of like my fronts. So that's it for the triggers. I guess there's one more thing I can show you, which is a little bit of a combo turn, like how you would like try to win the game. So one of the issues is though, like if these are already on the field, it's gonna be annoying to get them off, and you'll have to commit some stuff to get there. But like let's assume just for a second that they are already in our drop zone, so we don't have to really think about them. And let's see, what orders can I add? Like we will have the mask in gray because we've used the dog and like we've intercepted with the dog, so he's no longer there. Like, and we'll have this. We could create a dragon tree marker. I don't really have a marker on me right now, so I'll just put this as the dragon tree marker, so that's clear. And then we saw this in the early game. And let's say we have this on hand and this on hand. That's really all we need if I think about it. So for display you need a couple of CB. So pretty much like if we want to use Zorga's skill, we'll probably have to use Zorga's skill, and if we haven't used this, we would need one CB. So like, let's say that's face down already, and then we want another CB for Q, and that's it. So what would happen is, first, we need another order and drop. Nah, yeah, we would need another order and drop. Like, let's put this there, since it is likely that we've seen it. So this is your first grade 3 turn, so no persona, right, no nothing. What you would do is you would activate the Mask of Hydrogram, put into soul to write Zorga Masques. So what happens is, like, you get to write the mask unit, but you don't get to activate persona right, which only happens if your opponent is a grade 3. So at first it looks a bit like, why would you do that? Like, you don't get so much value out of it. But once you realize that if you alchemagic, and let's say we alchemagic these two, so our combined cost is discard an order, soul blast. I suppose we can soul blast Zorga ourselves. That's pretty good. So he gets triple drive, and then we check the top 3 cards of our deck. Let's say they're all PGs. Oh, that sucks. We mill a PG, we shuffle the deck. Now we get to, oh, this is bind. He gets a triple drive, and then in our graveyard, both of the RPDs come back. And for this order's effect, let's say we revive the PG, like it's a booster. So both of these get +10 and a crit from their own effect. Zorga's own effect says when you alchemagic, the front row, its continuous skill, gets +10. So he becomes a 25k with a crit. Your opponent is at grade 2. Like, where's my grade 2? Oh, I put it under here. Let's put this under. So your opponent is at grade 2, so they're 10k base, and you're swinging at 25. Like, that's 20k shield they need, and that's why I'm so fond of fronts right now, since the front is like the only way to like stop that. You need 20k shield to be able to guard that. So either way they take it, hope they see defensives, or they're just dying to it, I suppose. So the nice thing is you probably would swing with this one first, since this gets another 5k, so that's 30k with a crit. Your opponent probably guards this or takes this. You swing with your Vanguard, and since you have this open CB, you can counterblast one, retire this, call out Keel Severing, and then assume our triple drive is critical trigger, something else. Now if they PG this, we just throw the crit on here, and like this swings them for 25 with a crit. Let's hope they can't PG that for some reason. And then this one was 5, this becomes 10, it got 10k from the Vanguard, so this is 20, 28, and then the trigger made it 38 with a crit. Like, these are not numbers you're supposed to have on your first grade 3 turn. That's the thing, people think mask decks want to go second because, oh, persona right numbers. But like, Zorga has so much pressure going first that you kind of almost prefer this because nothing is restricted. Like, even this isn't restricted to your opponent being grade 3. You can just do the 4th attack, you can have the power on there. I believe even this one isn't restricted. No, like the +5k you could have given to the front row if you had more CB. Like, there's so many options, which is crazy to me. And then this becomes an intercept, which also just adds so much to the defense of the deck. And like, sure, these drive checks weren't insane, but I suppose just seeing the crit is often enough. So, and if the dog had survived, which we would have used the turn prior, like let's say it's still here and we moved it to the back, just reviving that PG with the order would have just added another PG to hand. Like, I don't know how to say it, but this deck just has so much pressure, can go so hard, and I think this is currently the best Stoichea deck you can play. It has some issues with consistency, like if you don't see orders, the game just becomes really bad. Like, same thing with RPD, if all 4 of them are at the bottom of your deck, you're unlikely to win the game, but you have to at least see Shadow Cloak then to get some sort of game going, like assume this is the only thing you have, like you would revive with, where did base Zorga go? You probably would revive a PG with base Zorga or some trigger with base Zorga, and then if you were to activate an order, like let's say like the revival order or something, you would bounce stuff, and like that's how you would try to keep going in the game, and like maybe side attack, like swing on their rear guards just to farm until you have that big push turn. So they don't overwhelm you too much, but not every deck can be countered that way. So like you kind of want to mulligan hard for this, and like maybe even this. So you get an early game, but like this is the most important thing to see. And then like these 3 cards, if I see these in my opening hand, I'm golden. I'm pretty much sure I'm gonna win the game. Like these 4, ooh, your opponent has to sack to get somewhere. Like maybe the deck will get power creeped in the later sets, but right now it feels like if everything goes right, this is one of those decks that's kind of like has the highest ceiling you can find right now, because crit pressure is just free. Crit pressure is so dangerous. Anyway, thanks for listening to this. I hope you learned something. I hope you also like Zorga and you want to build Zorga now. And if you don't, there's probably another cool deck profile coming soon on our channel. So have a good day and see you next time.